the primitive forms of artificial intelligence we already have proved very useful.
AI is a golden opportunity.
How do we ensure that this technology is regulated?
The long arc of technological history is now in an extraordinary new phase.
The AI6 podcast with Joanne Sweeney.
Well, Mike Sweeney, it's probably a dead giveaway because we share the same surname. Delighted to invite my brother to the podcast. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, although I don't know if I'm your brother or not. We haven't, we should have a DNA test just to prove it. But yeah, we'll just say because we share the same name that we are.
Well, I think that people will recognise from the mannerisms of both of us that we are definitely siblings. So listen, you were the first person to read my book, AI Playbook, cover to cover, and I didn't pay you to do it. What did you think of it?
Well, I'm sure the check's in the post, so I'm not too worried about that. No, I absolutely loved it. And I mean, you're speaking to me about a topic now that I'm not that au fait. Even though I've read your book, there's a lot of information in that. And at my age, trying to remember everything is really difficult. So I did write a few notes, which I will go to. But this year I read a couple of books about AI, which is a topic which, because I work in the advertisement industry, it's kind of, heading towards just like a tsunami now. So I can hear things at work where it's AI this, AI that. So, but I read a couple of books this year. One of them was called The Coming Wave, which I absolutely loved. Another one's called Nexus. So those kind of two books they're quite heavy on AI. And they're kind of like more focused about like where AI is being headed globally, kind of the challenges, and is there a way kind of to keep it under control, which obviously is a huge thing. And it's kind of with the books as well, there's kind of an undercurrent of like AI might spiral out of control, and obviously which feels intense and scary because no one knows at the moment like where it is going.
And you said to me, which was kind of funny, and actually a couple of people have said it to me since then, but you were the first saying, Joanne, up to page 17, I actually heard your voice. That was quite interesting because I did a radio interview, and the first question the interviewer goes, okay, so you wrote a book about AI. Did you use AI to write your book? So it was kind of comforting to me that you kind of heard me in the book. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you read any kind of person's autobiography, just say if you pick someone like, I don't know, maybe like Alan Carr, because he's got quite a distinctive voice, you're going to hear them talking in that. And obviously, because you're my sister, I can hear you in my head because I've been hearing it for like 40 plus, I won't say many years. So yeah, so when I was reading, and especially like the introduction when you were kind of like talking about yourself and Sophie and that, and like your background, your story and that, obviously I could hear you. It was like you were talking to me, but I was reading it. So yeah, with that, I could definitely hear your voice. And then I think that kind of carried on through when I was like reading the book too. So I kind of heard your voice all the way along.
Was there a chapter in particular that resonated with you most?
I mean, there was a lot. I had to take a note about this because obviously there's so much information in it, and it's like such a brilliant book and everything's bite-sized and broken down. But I think one of the chapters is really interesting is chapter 7, and that's the one which is called The Art of Prompt Engineering. And I think that's really interesting too. And I know like someone had mentioned this about at work, like AI obviously is something new to everyone. And I think at this stage we're all used to like typing into Google. And I think something like ChatGPT, we're kind of thinking, we're using it like ChatGPT, but you're not really getting the most of it if you don't know how to prompt it properly. So I think that was like really interesting, like how to approach it. I think you said like the whole idea of the anatomy of a great prompt, and that obviously really stuck with me. So I think going forward, we think we're knowing how to use it, but I think you've got to train yourself how to actually do that. And I think in that chapter, you kind of broke it down of what to do and how to use it, because I think that's something that people don't think at this stage, because obviously we're so early in AI. So I think that was a really interesting chapter and kind of went, all right, okay, I didn't think about that. But there was a lot of chapters in that I didn't think about that moment. And I think that one, chapter 7, about something as simple as just prompting it was like really interesting. I mean, the whole book, but it's really hard to kind of pick out. I know you asked me about a certain one. So I was like, chapter 5, chapter 7, chapter 3. So I kind of went for that one because I thought it's so simple, the prompt idea. But yet again, it's like, oh, wait a second. There's more to just asking the questions. It's how to ask the question. And then when they give you the answer, kind of how to ask, kind of give it more of a deep dive and how to ask that question as well. So
I like that answer only because I think the premise of my book is that AI is communications, it's not coding. And that
yeah,
chapter really proves that point. So because you work in advertising, you've been a lifelong graphic designer doing it from desktop publishing. And like me, being in communications, you've seen my career change and you've read books around AI and you're practicing it. Was there anything in the book that kind of made you go, oh, or made you change your mind or shifted your thinking around artificial intelligence?
so what surprised me most was kind of the opportunity there still is for people to use it in kind of meaningful ways, and how like most people are not like we're using AI without kind of knowing that people are using AI on the phones every day. And I think people at the moment kind of see AI as this huge kind of complicated thing, for tech companies. But when I read your book, it made it more clear, and it's kind of like actually AI is for everyone, and no matter how big or small the business is. And I suppose it kind of made me kind of think the way I think about AI as well, like your book, because it's kind of like you're like, I don't understand this. And you got kind of a vague idea what it is, and it's very futuristic. But after like reading that book, like the AI playbook, I realized that it's already here, it's changing all around you. So I think that was the most surprising thing, that I think we don't realize how much we're kind of involved in it. We think it's there, but we're actually using it. It's like when the internet was around and it was kind of like affecting our life without knowing it is affecting our life. And I think AI goes back to like 50s and 60s, doesn't it? Or like, I don't know how long. But I think the surprising thing is how much we're using without knowing it, and day to day. And I think if people read your book, I think they'd be surprised. They're like, all right, didn't realize that.
And it's funny you mentioned that about, when the internet came, because I remember the moment, and I remember my first email. I don't know if you know this story, but I remember when we got email and it was 1997 and I had completed my leaving cert and me and Sophie had gone to Galway to the university and I had my first email address and I had been writing you letters. And I was like, apart from saving a fortune on the stamps and the envelopes as a poor single mother student, I was like, I can email Mike. And I remember us ferociously emailing each other and thinking, this is just wonderful. And then the other side of that was workplaces were terrified that
Yeah.
staff would have access to email and, oh my God, who would they email and what would they say? Is there any sort of comparison there?
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying. I mean, I remember like this kind of moment when I said to my friend who'd been to America, come back, I think it was like around 1998, and I said like, oh, he goes, I said, what's your email address? And he went, email address? I went, yeah. He goes, and I was like, do you not have one? And he went, no. He goes, do you have one? I went, yeah. He goes, oh, you're fancy, aren't you? So we gone back to Downings and gone to the local pub. We're like, oh, I've got an email address. They'd be like, who do they think they are? So it was kind of like that. I mean, like I started my career back in 1994. And when I started, but we were still developing films in the darkroom. And then within a year, we moved out of that, where we didn't have to use the darkroom. And then, so if you think, and I was using the little black and white Macs back in 1981 college. So if you think of the kind of evolution from 91 to today, like I think I probably was in the sweet spot of technology era, because I've seen like huge changes, and now I'm kind of heading towards the end-ish of my career, and AI is coming. So I mean, I think from 94 to now, I don't think I could have picked a better period of time to see technology like changing so much. I mean, I was using Apple back in 91, and I think kind of Apple kind of only came into the general consciousness of people when the iPod came out in 2004. I mean, I didn't know there was such a thing as a PC. Another computer probably till 98. I was like, what? I thought Apple was the only type of computer. So, I mean, I've seen Apple from 91 to now, and obviously still using them. But yeah, I mean, there are huge changes. And I think the changes that were happening, I think changes that took probably like maybe 5-10 years back in the 90s, or it's probably taking months, maybe weeks. That advancement of technology with AI, it's going so fast now that it's actually scary. So with what we could do in a decade is now taking what, a month, a week. I mean, I don't know much about AI, but I'm only guessing. So, and what's to come, who knows?
I totally agree. I always say to audiences and to classrooms, I feel so lucky that I can actually live through this, knowing where we've come from. And, we're both in communications. You're in graphic design, creative director. I was in journalism,
Yeah.
now marketing comms. And we had just finished cutting tape in the radio station in order to get audio on there. Everything went digital and now it's AI powered. But Mike, we are both on the front line of disruption and potentially losing our jobs with AI because we can be replaced. What's your own experience as a creative director in the UK in an agency?
I think now with AIs, I mean, we're hearing it more and more. So if you think about maybe 3-4 years ago when we had meetings at work, AI, you might have heard it once, 3 years ago. And I remember 2 years ago, it's so meeting, noting to myself, let's see how much I hear AI being mentioned. And I hear it every single day now. Where like even 6 months ago, I might have heard it like 4 out of 5 days, 3 out of 5 days. Now it's every single day. And that shows you, even that short period, that even like who I work for, like it's there now and everyone's aware of it. It's kind of was like the internet back then. People would hear this thing. And I think even the general population are hearing AI. And just, you ask someone like a year ago what's AI, they might have gone like, I don't know. And now they're like, oh yeah, I kind of understand it. So, I mean, there is a huge difference. And yeah, of course, like, I mean, I work on Adobe software, work on computers. I mean, that is in the front line. I mean, what you can see now with, is it Sora, what they can do videos and that. I mean, Adobe Creative Suite, which, if you add something extra to a background, you had to like do it yourself, take hours and hours. Now it's just like a prompt, takes seconds to do. So even in the last year or two, like the tools we've got at work are just like, I mean, they're making things like so much faster. And then obviously, just say if people are pitching for stuff. So if you had to come up with creative ideas, you've got AI there. So which might have taken a team of maybe 5 people to come up with a week. One person can do that now in half an hour, in an hour. So it's just crazy what obviously the changes. So we're seeing that in front of our eyes. So when you go back, I mean, I did say today to someone, I wish it was 1994 because I was like, even information overload and messages and emails and Teams and everything else, just sometimes it's relentless. And then you've got like AI coming where you take a step back. And when I started my career, like in like 31 years ago, I loved to sit for one day and I'd say the peace and quiet. A deadline would have been like, oh yeah, to do that like 2-page leaf, but you've got like 2 weeks to do. You want that like now in like a client would ask for that within the end of the day. It's crazy. So yeah, I mean, AI has, like I can say it, I mean, like being mentioned more and more and a lot more frequently, and it is coming and it's here and it's just tsunami and you've got to like try to, ride that wave because it ain't stopping and it's getting bigger and bigger.
And like for me and like you, client expectation is changing, right? And also managing the clients and saying to them, and I talk about AI shame a lot. Yeah, I'm using AI, but that won't dilute the final product that I'm giving to you. How are you managing that or navigating that?
Well, again, I mean, like this is on you. So, and sometimes I don't deal directly with clients, but you've got to be, I mean, with AI as well, there's like obviously lots of, not some issues, but you've got to think about licensing, like copyright, all that. So you've got to be really careful, like what software you're using. So anything like that, it's like anything like licenses. If you're using photography for a campaign or that, you got to make sure it's licensed and copyright, whatever. So, I mean, all that has to be, I think there's that element of AI as well, where you kind of go in and charge territory where like, can I use this? And then if you show obviously the clients up, they're like, we love it, let's use that. You got to make sure that you've got the rights to use and that. But I think with clients as well, think the expectations, everything's much more instant, faster and faster, isn't it? You know, who wants? We're not waiting for like overnight to go for our music to go into the music shop to get our album. We want it at 12 o'clock at night and download it that very second. Turns 12. So everything's like, obviously we live in the world where it's instant. But I think the expectations are climbing and probably much faster as well. The expectations are higher. Where do you stop?
So you mentioned Adobe there, and you've been using Adobe for, I'm going to guess, a couple of decades, right? And when this episode goes out, I'm going to be jumping on a plane to LA to Adobe Max, to their big global annual conference where they're going to make some announcements. And I suspect there's going to be some AI announcements too. But you must have seen how Adobe has evolved over the years, just like Mac and Apple, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, with Adobe, they're always like sending updates out. So once you get the updates, you check out what all the new features are, and even like the features that were, say, back this time, October 2024, and the improvements now, even with AI, like image generation, all that. It's just incredible and what you can do. And with it as well, there's probably like, I mean, I haven't delved deep into it, but there's probably a lot more than I know that you can do.
So AI, apart from professionally, do you use it personally? Like I know when Bobby had his junior cert mocks and he said, hey, I need a brownie recipe. And I'm like, I can't bake. I would
Yeah.
speak to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT saved my life as
Yeah.
on that occasion. How are you kind of using it creatively, personally?
And believe it or not, would you believe that I only downloaded ChatGPT about 2 months ago? But in that, I am using it all the time now. And even my partner's using it. So we're both using it, and for different things too. So first I thought ChatGPT was just like Google. And I was like, why would I be using that? And then when I went into it, I was like, all right, so it's checking everything from every website and it's breaking down into bullet points, which I absolutely love. One of the girls at work was saying that she uses it because her and her husband are busy. They've got like 2 kids. They type in, give us like different recipes for dinner for 5 days. Our kids don't eat this, they eat that, they like this. It's got to be healthy. We've got this amount of time to cook, and just something like that. And when she told me that, it blew my mind. So I was like, right, I need to download ChatGPT. I mean, I've been using Alexa for 5, 6 years. And the weird thing about Alexa is I feel like I know her.
And she knows you.
Oh, she knows me, yeah. You feel like, yeah, she's like, morning Alexa, like, what's the temperature? Because I'm always like, how hot or cold it is. If it was like below 5 degrees, I'm like, oh, I need to turn the heating on. I mean, the first time we used it, I was like, my mind was blown. I was like, what is this thing? It's answering me back. But you get used to it so quickly. And that's the thing about AI.
And I always say to people, if you use it personally and uncover how it can help you,
Yeah.
and then you have those mind-blowing moments, then you can take it into your work and explore it deeper. And I think that's the point, and you mean it very well, is that we actually have no idea the capability of it until we start asking. Because remember, it's receptive to us. It acts on a prompt that we give it. But do you think it's replacing you or making you more efficient?
I think at the moment it's making us more efficient without a doubt. How long it's going to make us efficient before replacing, I don't know. But I think timeline, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, I have no idea. But at the moment, yeah. But we're working to make us efficient, more efficient, you know what I'm saying? But when it will replace, I don't know. But I think that my job and the industry I am in is definitely kind of in the front line of the firing line. I would have thought, like people like copywriters, designers, they're talking about accountants, lawyers, and it's scary to think that there's so many people where AI could take their jobs. But like when you look at it and you hear about it, like I was like, my job is right there at the very top. So am I worried? If I was younger, yeah. I'm at the age now where, I've had my career And I think if I was a young person, I would be worried. But again, I think with you, and I think what you say in your book, I think what people have to do, is, especially younger people, you have to work with AI and you have to be on it. Because if you're not on it, you're going to be left behind, and you really have to like jump on the AI bandwagon and ride along with it, because otherwise you're going to be left behind. So I think those people who do that will benefit. But I think, and as well with companies as well, I think even smaller companies who think they don't really need it, they need to get on it as well. They need to be on that AI train, because it ain't stopping. And the stations where it's stopping is getting less and less, if that makes sense. So, and it's a juggernaut as well, and it's just going full force. So, and it's what you've done. And when I realized you'd written a book about AI, and that was the key thing I remember, is like, I need to get on this. When you were talking about, like, thinking about 2 or 3 years ago, you need to be on this. And you're right there, and you're absolutely fine, because I think even with your career, it will probably change. Like the way direction of you're going. I mean, you start off in journalism, and then, you get into social media, everything's changing, and you're really on that. Like, if you're not keeping up with it, like, you're falling off, and you're getting off at one of those stations, and that training coming back again.
It's so true. And I saw that and I was like, am I going to be obsolete, or am I going to be trying leading from the front? And it's, you could say it was purely selfish, but also to serve, my audience and my clients that I have. But Mike, are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future of AI? Because none of us really know where we can go. Commentators comment, the big players who are controlling it and have all the money, they know where it's going. But as us kind of minions here using it and talking about it, are you optimistic or pessimistic?
Definitely both. I mean, optimistic because I think of the medical changes and things it's going to do is just going to be incredible. I mean, that I think in the forefront is going to be crazy. I mean, we have no idea. Scary, yeah. In a weird way, I'm kind of glad I'm in my 50s, because I think, well, I've only got about 30 years to live. So, not going to see the end of the world. But it is hard to not kind of think about the doom of what's going to do, because it's going to be huge. I mean, I always kind of say, like, the internet's like a little drop in the ocean compared to what AI is. Look, the internet's controlling the world, isn't it? And I saw this like really simple sketch that someone had done. It's like simple, like, kids drawing. And it was like stairs, and it was like the stairs going array up, and like on this like really, I think, A4 school Scott page. And at the bottom stairs was like human beings. And then on the second stair was like the internet. And then right at the top was AI. And you're like, I was like, wow. Like, that's how far it's going to go, and we don't know where it's going to stop. So, I mean, yeah, it's exciting and scary. Will we ride long enough to know, to see big changes? I think, yeah, because I think there's going to be massive changes in the next 5 and 10 years. I think the changes are going to be huge, and I think people are not ready for it as well. I mean, look at the internet, even, how it's changed and how you can't live without it. Like, everything's on your phone. If you think a phone's 10 years ago, now you can't live without your phone. Meaning, like, apps, everything's connected. You pay your bills, your banking. If you think you had to go to a bank to like transfer money to do this or that, I mean, you're in Tesco's and you're transferring money to someone with just a press of a button. And if that's what the internet could do, what's AI going to do?
Well, listen, I would say that how I got here in my career all started at the kitchen table in Downings in County Donegal, when you, my brother, were like ferocious competitive. There was 4 years between us, but you never let me win. But one thing that we did as a game in the 80s, apart from teaching ourselves how to juggle, because that's how we entertain ourselves with batteries, one game we did play was we had to read the newspaper and get to the end of an article without making a mistake. And then my first job was as a newsreader. And I always have to credit that to you. And I always say my career to where I am now always started because I chose broadcast journalism. So you must take all the credit.
Yeah, I'll take the credit for your whole career now, just because of that.
I am so grateful because I don't know, it just shaped me and gave me some really solid character building that I've taken on. So yeah, Mike, I never forget those tough games that you never let me win.
I think if we play them now, I think you would definitely beat me. So, yeah.
Maybe next time you're over, we'll get a broadsheet out like the Irish Times and we'll read an article each and see who gets to the end without a mistake.
Yeah, God, I'm going to have to brush up on my reading now.
Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on my podcast. It's a real honor to have my brother. You're the only sibling who's joined. I did have my daughter. There's 8 of us. I'm not sure if any other siblings would join. Do you think? Would you want to, would any other siblings come on my podcast?
Probably, yeah, but I don't think they'd be as interesting as me.
I don't think they'd talk about AI, would they?
I don't think so. I mean, I just got through that podcast because obviously I'm just learning about it too. When I read your book, I was like, right, okay, there's a lot of information. Then when you asked me to do the podcast, I was like, I'm not going to be able to talk about it. And I think that if you're scared of AI and you don't know anything about it, I think Joanne's book is the perfect place to start because it brings you from A right through to Z in like the easiest possible way.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, my brother. And I am not paying him for this, but obviously there could be an inherent bias, so deal with that as you will. But Mike Sweeney, thank you for joining me on the AI6 podcast.
You're welcome.